What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. A big thank you for coming back and joining me for season 3 of the Borussia Dortmund rebuild. So if you've been with me for the past 2 episodes, you'd have seen that we are nicely edging along in the save. We are signing the right types of players, the youth players that we are looking to develop. And we have already won ourselves back-to-back Bundesliga titles. One area we are probably lacking is in European competition. So for the last part of this rebuild, we are going to start focusing on getting the players that we can add to the team to progress us in European competition. We want that big one. We want the competition that this team won in 1997. So let's jump in and see what's happened in season 3. Here we go then, we have pushed forwards. It's the 1st of June 2025. Season 3 is now in the history books. We have gone through the entire season and we are going to bring you up to speed with everything that's happened. But as always, we're going to kick off with the transfers. We're going to show you the players that have left the club and the players that have arrived as we go off in our quest of getting European glory for Borussia Dortmund. So let's start off as always on the right hand side of the screen and show you the players that have left the club. The first player that left the club in this section of the rebuild is Sebastian Haller, a player that I wasn't utilising really with Makoko and Brian Broby coming to the club. I think it was just one that he kind of got pushed to the side. A little bit difficult to get a 30-year-old in when you want to have a youth development save. So he kind of fell by the wayside. An offer come in, £9.5 million to send him to Napoli was decent enough money. We took that and we moved him on. The next player to leave was Scott Robertson. If you remember Scott, he came in at the start of the save in season 1. Fortunately, couldn't really get him in the first team with signing players like Gavi and already having Jude Bellingham. We allowed him to play for both the under-19s and the second team where he could. Didn't really show signs of development. So we had an offer that came in from Braunschweig, 175,000. So we did take a little hit on him, but it's one of those where the deal was right for both the player and the club. We then sold Almugar Kabar, who is a defender or wing back on the left hand side. Hadn't really broken into the first team, only 19 years old. Probably one that we should have had a little look at and tried to convinced to stay at the club. He did ask to leave, which is disappointing at the age of 19. Obviously would have liked to have kept that type of player, and I probably should have fought harder to keep him, but we took the £170,000. I don't know whether he was going to get in ahead of Christensen anyway, so it was one of those where we kind of had to take the money or just kind of try and keep the player against his will, and we didn't do that. We just allowed him to move. The next player to leave the club was Namdi Collins, but he went to Hoffenheim for £2.8 million. Player that wasn't getting into the first team. We'd already signed a few players. Although he is one for the future, 21 years old, I just allowed him to leave the club because I thought he isn't going to be getting in. We need to actively try and refresh the squad as much as we can. The right kind of money came in, 2.8 million, felt right at the time, so we took that and did that deal. Next player to leave was Mo Dahoud. He kind of got disillusioned with the fact that Gavi was at the club, Bellingham was ahead of him, Emre Can was in there. We have some good midfield options. Another one kind of kicked off, wanted to play more games, have more playing time. Couldn't really give it to him, so we allowed him to move to Wolfsburg. Did recoup £15.5 million for him, so that I think was a good deal. We lost a youth teamer, Gökdezin Gürpuz, to Red Bull Leipzig for 84,000. Meunier went to Spartak Moscow, on a permanent deal. Finally allowed him to leave the club. 33 years old, wasn't getting any game time, been out on loan for the previous couple of seasons, so he finally leaves. Florian Yu is the player who went out on loan to Magdeburg. He's a player that is a youth prospect, came in 17 years old. I think he's going to have a really bright future. Plays through the middle of the park. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do playing for a adult team because he's only played for the under-19s. So going out, getting that loan experience, I think next season he might be a candidate to break out into the first team. We then allowed Thorgan Hazard to leave, going to Napoli for £7 million. 32 years old now. Again, it's one of those catch-22s where you need experienced players at the club, but when you're trying to have a youth development save, you really want to move these types of players on. So when the right money came in at £7 million, we allowed him to leave. And then Luis Fiorini, who was a signing from last season, he has gone out on loan to Reading. So all in all, we recouped £35 million, but we spent 70 on the left-hand side. And the first player to come in this season was Luis Guilherme. He is a attacking player who is a Brazilian. Comes from Palmeiras, which is a bit of a wonder kid factory. Plays on the right, the left, through the middle, so we like the versatility. 19 years old. Has played 11 times for the under-20 Brazilian national team, scoring 6 goals. I think he's a player that could develop quite nicely, and we're either going to develop him and keep him at the club, or this is a candidate, I think, to fit the bill of develop and sell on for a profit. I just have a feeling that he's a good player, but he won't get to be an excellent player, whereas we can just kind of buy him, develop him, and then sell him on, which is what Dortmund do. The next player we signed was Tanguy Nianzou. Bought him in from Seville. Sound player. Another reason why Namdi Collins was allowed to leave, because the quality of player that we're bringing into the club is far better than the ones that are leaving. True wonder kid, 22 years old now, although he was 21 when we signed him. £200,000 a week. He's an absolute amazing amount of money for a player who's 22 years old, but that's what he wanted and that's what it took to get him to the club. I think he's going to be a rock at the centre of the defence, especially if he's learning from players like Hummels and Rouse. We then went and signed Rooney Bargi. Now this is a player, if you watched my Coventry City rebuild, went and signed Rooney Bargi. He was absolutely fantastic. This kid could be one of the most under the radar wonder kids. I don't remember seeing him on too many of these flash videos that you see about these kinds of players. He's just absolutely fantastic. And once again, Copenhagen have had 3 wonder kids that we have gone in and cherry picked from them. And I think he will be a brilliant player to the end of the save. The next player we went and bought was Liam Delap, going back to Manchester City, giving them some more cash, following the Jadon Sancho path. Yeah, this one, he's a little bit further down the path than the likes of Sancho and some of the players we bought already from Man City, but it's a sound purchase, £20 million. Can play on the wide left, can play as a striker. I think he's going to be a great rotation option for Makoko, Broby and Rouse and Skelder up on the left-hand side. I think we can just work them in cup games, league games, wherever he needs game time, we will try and get him in. But I think he's a sound signing. And then in January, we went out and we bought the wonder kid that everybody wants, Endrick. Couldn't really just leave him there for Real Madrid to go and buy, could I? So went out, spent the money, bought him to Germany, 18 years old still. Going to try and develop him really nicely. Can bring him in slowly, mix him in again with the likes of Delap, Skelder up on the right hand side with Bargi. We've got Makoko up top. We've got Adeyemi. He's going to be one of those types of players that really gets in and amongst the real wonder kids. And then finally, we signed Alberto Moliero. £15 million for Molero. He's a sound investment. I think 21-year-old Spaniard. Again, a tricky player. Can play wide left, can play wide right, can play through the middle. Of the versatility of the player. He has some great stats in terms of his vision, his flair. His work rate could do with a bit of improving at 12, but the technique, the dribbling, the first touch, another true wonder kid. And Las Palmas in Canary Islands really do know how to churn these players out because they have a great reputation for it. So that is the transfer dealings done. £35 million recouped, £70 million spent. And as always, the big question is, was the money well spent? And the answer once again is yes, the money was well spent. Once again, we have retained our Bundesliga title. That is 3 in a row now. Although we didn't score as many points as we did last season. 82 last term, 74 this term. So we have fallen away a little bit. Champions League, we have progressed further than we had before. I did say we wanted to have an assault on this competition. We have managed to get to the final and we've got agonisingly close. We are runners-up in the Champions League. DFB Pokal, we were knocked out in the second round by Hoffenheim, which is a little bit of a strange one, but we didn't play well on the day. We deserved to lose the game, so no complaints there. And the DFL Super Cup, we have won that once again. So let's kick off by showing you the Super Cup. We beat Bayern Munich 4-2 in that. DFB Pokal, as I said, knocked out in the second round. Champions League, unfortunately, we lost to Manchester City in the final. If we go through the new improved Champions League, if that's what you think, we finished in 18th in the league format, played 8, won 4, drew none, lost 4, had a goal difference of 4, and we had 12 points. Karim Adeyemi got 17 goals in the Champions League, got 5 Man of the Match awards. Emre Can and Christiansen getting 18 yellow cards between them, and Nauf 14.81 kilometres. From the league phase, we went into the knockout round, where we played against Sociedad. We beat them 5-3 on aggregate. The round of 16, we got drawn against Chelsea. We beat them 3-2 on aggregate. Quarters, we played against Milan. A 4-2 aggregate scoreline got us through into the semi-final, where we faced off against Ajax. Beat them 8-5 on aggregate. And that left us in the final with Manchester City, where we unfortunately lost 2-1. So getting closer and closer to the dream of replicating 1997, but unfortunately for us, not this time. However, finishing in the final qualifies us for the FIFA Club World Cup, which is a competition which on this game I think is broken. We'll find out in the next episode how we get on in that, because it doesn't start for another 18 days. That leaves us with the Bundesliga to break down. Let's go in as always and show you the stages page. If we go to the league table, you can see we have played 34 games. We won 25. We drew 5. We lost 6. Scored 85 goals. Conceded 34. Had a goal difference of 51. And we had 74 points. We won the league by 5 points from Frankfurt. Borussia Mönchengladbach were behind them. And 7 points further back down the line was Bayern Munich, who for some reason didn't fire us all season. We had a good campaign. A little bit disappointed that we finished on a lot less points than we did last season, but it was enough to win us the league, so I'm not going to complain at all. If we go into the profile page for the league and go to the league table, we can see that Karim Adeyemi scored 29 league goals. Now, Karim Adeyemi needs a shout out because he has had a fantastic season. 26 games, 29 goals in the Bundesliga. Overall, 43 games, 52 goals. He was on a 7.71 average rating in the league, 7.80 overall. One of the best single seasons that you are going to see from a Dortmund player, I am sure. Average rating, 7.71 for Adeyemi. Assists, 10 for Reina, 10 for Gavi. Player of the Match awards, 8 for Karim Adeyemi. Clean sheets, Kobel getting 12 of those. We have Emre Can on 13 yellow cards, so his discipline is quite poor. He was on the list in both the Champions League and the Bundesliga. So it's been an absolute joy of a season. Again, winning the Bundesliga, finishing runners-up in the Champions League and winning the DFL Super Cup. So whether you consider that a major trophy or not, it's either a double or it's a major trophy and a minor trophy, and that Champions League run was absolute gold. We also have the FIFA Club World Cup, and as I said, that will be in the next episode, as technically it takes place in the next season, even though we've qualified for it in this one. Off the back of another fantastic season then, let's have a little look at the finances, and you can see that we have really put Dortmund now in a strong position. Overall balance at the club is £223 million. Our transfer budget for the next season is £42.9 million. Our wage budget is 2.8. We're only spending £2.2 million. So the finances are really coming together well. Like I said, that dip in the 2023 April, not too sure why it happened or what happened there, but since then we are only on the climb. The club's overall balance is being fantastic, and luckily for us, that takeover that was in season 2 didn't happen, so we still have the same board, and it means that we are still progressing nicely in the way that they would want us to. A quick run through of the Club Vision tab shows that we are now untouchable. Our job security reading untouchable is fantastic. As I said, that takeover bid has gone. It didn't go through, which means that we still have the same board. And in terms of our actionable objectives, work within the wage budget, we're on course. Sign players to sell for a profit. They're disappointed because we're not selling enough players. Obviously, we are buying to retain as well as develop, but we're not really turning them over. So the board are disappointed about that now. Grow the club's reputation. They are pleased because we have obviously just reached the Champions League final. We have also won the Bundesliga now 3 times in a row. So the eyes of the world are really going to be on Dortmund, and that is good for that. Informational objectives, minimum 4-year contracts for first team players. We are still doing that. So the 5-year plan then, looking forwards, they wanted us to be competitive in the Champions League. We passed that. Reached the knockout stages of the Club World Cup. So because that competition is there, we still haven't clicked over to the 25-26 season, and they're reserving judgment on that. Qualify for the Champions League, we passed. Challenge for the DFB Pokal, we failed because we were knocked out early on, and be competitive in the Super Cup. If we go forwards to that next season, they just want to become recognised as the best of the rest. A little bit strange, we're 3 times Bundesliga champions now, just got to a Champions League final, but they want to be best of the rest. That's fine. Looking at the board feedback then, A+ from the board. They want to play attacking football, they are pleased. Develop players using the club's youth system, delighted. Play entertaining football, pleased. Play possession football, pleased. Play high tempo pressing football, very pleased. In terms of notable highlights, pleased that the team won the Bundesliga, pleased that the team reached the final of the Champions League, delighted with the positive atmosphere in the changing room, disappointed about a 1-1 draw with Mönchengladbach, disappointed that the team only reached the second round of the DFB Pokal. Disappointed about the Champions League final defeat against Man City. Now, obviously, you're going to be disappointed. If your team gets that far, you want to win it. Unfortunately, we couldn't get over the line. In terms of the supporters there, they're not as generous. They only give us a B-. Sport culture really shows why. They want to develop players using the club's youth system. They're delighted. Play attacking football. Pleased. Sign German players is still one. Cannot hit because we're not signing enough experienced players, and the youngsters that are coming into the club are from other countries, so that one probably is never going to be hit. Play high tempo pressing football, delighted. Play entertaining football, pleased. Finish above Schalke in the league. Qualify for the Champions League, all good. Notable highlights, pleased with the 8-5 victory over Ajax in the Champions League semi-final. Delighted with Adeyemi's recent performances. Delighted to clinch a Bundesliga instead of achieving the previously outlined objective. They're disappointed about the 2-1 Champions League final defeat. Again, I would be too. Disappointed with Victor Christiansen's recent performances. Disappointed about a 1-1 draw with Mönchengladbach. So it seems Mönchengladbach are a team that we are closely paired with. They crop up every single time that we don't beat them on this criticisms list. But overall, we're doing a good job, and I think we'll take the A+ and the B- as we move forwards. Before we wrap up Season 3, let's have a little look at our best 11s. So obviously 2 different versions of this. The first one is the Scout Report Best 11 that gives us a few strengths and weaknesses. We'll also have a look at the other version before we wrap up. So looking at this version then, they have gone with Kobel in goal, Christiansen, Sula, Schlotterbeck and Pembele as the back 4. Gavi, Emre Can and Bellingham as our midfield 3, which is exactly what I predicted it should be. Gio Reyna on the wide left, Bargi on the wide right, and Karim Adeyemi through the middle. No problems with that whatsoever. I think that is a sensible team. Gio Reyna and Skeldrup can be interchanged on the left-hand side. Obviously, there's different combinations of players that you can put in the attacking options because we have now a vast amount of attacking talent. Looking at the strengths and the weaknesses, aerial reach for the goalkeepers. Top goal scorer Karim Adeyemi got 29. He was also in fantastic form, getting a 7.82 from his last 5 matches. Wage budget, plenty of room with £650,000 available to spend. Youth prospects, we have Luke Rahman, Charles Herman and William Rashidi. Dribbling, finishing, through balls, keeper depth, defence depth. We have a good squad and it's really just getting better and better all the time. Weaknesses, marking, tackling, positioning, teamwork, overall depth, command of area, long throws, Player struggling for form. Victor Christiansen has struggled for form, 6.48 in his last 5 matches. Might be a little bit of lack of competition there has just allowed him to slack off. We will be talking to him about that, and hopefully that starts to pick up in the next season. Work rate. Some players don't seem to want to work hard. Obviously that is probably going to be down to training. Going to have to try and knock that mentality into them or out of them and start them to work harder. Natural fitness, lacks natural fitness. Goals against, 17 of 45 conceded have been from through balls, so it's something that is still there despite changing some of the players at the back. It's still not being addressed. The midfield also is a lot better, so I'd hope that some of those balls were being cut out, but still, that is why we look at this page to try and develop. Looking at the other best 11 then, it says now Kobel in goal, Christiansen, Sula, Schlotterbeck, Pembele, Gavi, Chan and Bellingham, Reina, Bargi and Adeyemi up top. Looking at the purple players, Abro, Roth, Biatshabu, Nianzou, Azizi, Yu, Johansson, Semestin, you got Nauf, Molero and Endrick. So really strong coming through. I don't know why it's saying we have a lack of depth, because if you look, we've got Molero wonder kid, Endrick wonder kid, Johansson wonder kid, Biatshabu wonder kid, Nianzou wonder kid. Once these players all start to fully develop and reach an age where they're going to be considered as adult players, maybe, we're going to have insane depth, and I really think that we're building something special. The way we got to the Champions League final was fantastic. Unfortunately couldn't beat Manchester City. Whilst Erling Haaland's there, not a lot of teams are going to be beating Manchester City, but obviously managing Dortmund, you know all about Erling Haaland. Yeah, I think the team's really going in the right direction. Can't see many weaknesses. Maybe if Christiansen's not working hard, he may need to be looked at and see if we can either sign a replacement that will work harder, or if maybe it's a lack of competition. Goalkeeper's still sound. Midfield is absolutely perfect. So I think from here on in, we are looking for those players who are really going to advance us. We have gone out and really bought the bulk of what we need now, I think. The other thing that I forgot to mention was that both Hummels and Rouse retired at the end of this season, I think. So in terms of replacing them as leaders in the dressing room, that is going to be something that we're going to need to look at as well when we need players to step up. Obviously the goalkeeper, Sula, Schlotterbeck are players, but also Jude Bellingham and Gavi. Even though he's young, I think he's still an influential player, and I think they're players that are going to drive the club forwards. Right then, if you're still here at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. I cannot thank you enough. The support I've had on the channel in the past couple of months has been absolutely insane. It's been fantastic, and I really have enjoyed watching the channel grow, and it's all down to yourself. So again, a big thank you. But if you are here, you haven't hit the like and subscribe button already, please consider doing so. Really do appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody who takes their hard-earned time to come here and watch the content. Before I go though, don't forget on the channel we also have Let's Plays, Wonder Kids, tips, tricks, tutorials. There's a bit of something for everybody on the channel. If you find something else on there, don't forget to hit the like button on that too. But for this one, I'm going to wrap it there. Big thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next part of the Borussia Dortmund rebuild.